Today, we're discussing a proposal from the European Commission that aims to incentivize and push forward the development of artificial intelligence and to also address some of the high risks that are associated with this novel technology. We're going to go through this proposal and discuss the different regimes that the European Commission believes that artificial intelligence can significantly contribute. And we're also going to look at some of the risks that they believe are associated with this kind of technology. So let's go. This review was conducted in 2021 and was based on the original coordinated plan that was set forth by the European Commission in 2018. The coordinated plan attempts to make Europe globally competitive in the AI marketplace. As it currently stands, a lot of big corporations that leverage this technology are either located in North America or in Asia. And the coordinated plan sets out to make Europe globally competitive within this market. In addition to that, the coordinated plan sets out frameworks and proposals for how we can build AI that is trustworthy. AI that puts humans in the driver's seat and that is human-centric by construction. This review lays out 3 actionable steps that can be taken in order for Europe to advance its state of AI to the target state. The first one of these is to accelerate investments in artificial intelligence aimed at enhancing social and economic factors of our lives. Specifically, the Commission has proposed that the EU should invest at least 1 billion euros per year in the range of 2021 to 2027. In addition to this, the target is for public and private investments to sum up to a total of 20 billion euros per year by the end of this decade. Lastly, the European Commission points to the RRF, so the Recovery and Resilience Facility, as an opportunity for member states to invest in AI. So RRF provides funds for member states in Europe to bounce back from the repercussions of the COVID pandemic, and this presents a great opportunity to actually invest in upcoming AI technologies. The second point is to act. The Commission stresses that with new technologies like artificial intelligence, first mover advantage is absolutely critical. Therefore, we need to act both on the national level, but also in the private sector to bring values and bring them quickly. The third step is to align. We need our efforts on an EU level, on a national level, but also within private sector to be aligned if we expect to effectively bring about this AI transformation. In addition to this, we need to find sector-specific alignments to ensure that the efforts we bring to a particular sector work to actually enhance each other and not undermine each other. The proposal is then divided into 4 sections that chronologically describe how we can go from our current state to the target end state. Firstly, we need to set enabling conditions for the European Union so that we can actually develop these AI technologies. If we don't have the enabling conditions, for example, infrastructure and data capacity, then no one will develop AI technologies here. Secondly, we need to ensure that Europe is a place where research and innovation thrives. Now, this will be attained by ensuring that we have funding, for example, for the most promising research programs, ensuring that we have key capacity within the European Union and that we attract talent, etc. Thirdly, we need to ensure that the AI technologies that are being developed in an ethical way and that promote sort of a human-centric vision. And fourth, the proposal lays out a number of key sectors that are critical for the development of economic and social well-being. So we need to develop strategic leadership within these sectors to ensure that we reach the end state, not only in one of these subdomains, but actually across the board for all of the different enterprises that we're interested in. To set the preconditions for a thriving Europe when it comes to artificial intelligence, the Commission established a number of expert-based groups that could help inform the Commission on how to set policies, etc. The first one of these groups was a so-called high-level expert group on AI. This group helped establish a set of ethical guidelines for the development of artificial intelligence, and they came up with 3 main deliverables. The first one was a set of ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI. Secondly, they came up with a policy and investment recommendation for trustworthy AI. And finally, they came up with an assessment list for trustworthy AI. This list goes under the acronym of ALT-AI. Secondly, a high-level expert group on the impact of the digital transformation on EU labor markets was established. This group, as you can tell from the name, was tasked with assessing the impact of the AI digital transformation on labor markets in the EU. They produced a report during 2019 with policy recommendations for EU, member state, businesses, etc. Lastly, an expert group on liability and new technologies was also formed, and during 2019, they also produced a report on liability for AI and other emerging digital technologies. Overall, the creation of these groups were said to help facilitate the discussions on policy setting, and they also opened the door to wider discussions among the member states. Several feedback channels were also established by the EU Commission to monitor the update and development of AI technologies. So firstly, there's an innovative public services platform. There is an advanced technologies for industry project and also a European AI alliance. Another very important ingredient in developing artificial intelligence is having high quality data ready at hand. This is something that has not been facilitated to the extent that the Commission would hope since the original inception of the coordinated plan. Therefore, there's been a number of actions set out by the European Union to further facilitate the data sharing process and encourage an environment where data sharing is the norm. A European strategy for data aiming to create a common data market was developed in 2020, mainly for B2B applications, so business to business. A set of policy, legal, and funding recommendations for B2G data sharing was also established, and proposed regulations to ensure trust in data sharing were also established. There are also a number of action points that the Commission itself will take up and address. Specifically, the Commission will adopt a proposal for a Data Act to stimulate the use of privately held data by government, to address issues related to data access and use in business-to-business settings. And it concerns the following situations. Firstly, it concerns making certain public sector data available for reuse. It concerns sharing data amongst businesses against some form of remuneration. It also concerns sharing personal data with the help of a personal data sharing intermediary, which is something that is used to help with the GDPR regulations. It allows data use on altruistic grounds as well. So these are all the domains that we're trying to address with this Data Act. Secondly, the Commission will propose an implementing act of making public sector high-value data sets in machine-readable format freely available for use. The intention here is that if we have high-quality data sets centralized in Europe that are freely accessible to all parties, then that will help incentivize the business climate to actually leverage this data in order to create applications. Thirdly, the Commission, in combination with member states, will launch a European Alliance for Industrial Data, Edge, and Cloud. The intent here being to help investments in research and development, and also to help deployment of cloud capabilities at local, national, and EU level. The Commission and member states will also invest in European data spaces and the European Cloud Federation. Specifically, they will invest in the Green Deal, manufacturing, mobility, health, finance, energy, agriculture, public administration, and skills. These areas are all identified by the European Commission as being key growth areas that require investment in order to come to fruition. The intent is also to establish a single market for data and trustworthy and secure AI ecosystems. The Commission is also concerned with fostering the critical computing capacity required to make enhancements in these fields. Some of the leading AI technologies currently require massive computational efforts, and this is both a problem from an environmental standpoint and also a problem from a financial standpoint. You need to invest heavily in computational architecture in order to facilitate such models. One way of addressing this is through the initiative called EuroHPC. It is a collaboration between 32 countries to develop and deploy supercomputing infrastructure accessible from anywhere within Europe. This will of course prevent that individual countries have to invest heavily in supercomputing infrastructure in order to compete with some of the larger states like the US and China, for example. It is also accessible from anywhere in Europe, which means that this will be inclusive to all member states. One other consideration is that we're seeing a large move in computing from centralized systems to the edge. This is seen in a number of industrial applications and also in the automotive industry, for example. A critical concern when it comes to these kinds of infrastructures moving to the edge is we need to make computation more efficient. These huge models that you can see in, for example, natural language processing cannot be run on small edge devices. That would require massive amounts of memory and computational capacity, and that is simply not feasible at this stage in the kind of edge devices that we see. Therefore, the Commission, with support of member states, will launch an industrial alliance on microelectronics to reinforce the existing ecosystem. They will dedicate a testing and experimentation facility specifically to edge AI. They will also invest in research and innovation for low-power edge AI to try and get around these issues that we're currently observing in industry. Lastly, member states are encouraged to develop national integrated large-scale data management and HPC infrastructures. They're encouraged to ensure that academia, industry, and public sector can use HPC and understand the data management required. They are also encouraged to strengthen Europe's position in processing and semiconductor technologies for artificial intelligence. The second high-level objective that the European Commission set out to achieve is to make the EU the place where excellence thrives from the lab to the market when it comes to AI. In order to attain this goal, a number of strategic partnerships have already been established and also planned to be established. These partnerships provide legal structure to make funding across EU more efficient. They enable innovative technologies to reach the market more quickly, and they facilitate the scale of research and innovation needed to address critical societal challenges and major EU policy objectives. Some examples of these partnerships are HPC Contractual Public-Private Partnership, the Electronic Components and Systems for European Leadership Joint Undertaking, Photonics PPP, Factories of the Future PPP. In addition to forming strategic partnerships, the EU Commission would also have to mobilize investments in order to facilitate an environment of research that strives for excellence. Through Horizon 2020, which is a funding institution by the European Commission, the Commission invested 50 million euros over 4 years to create a research community of closely networked excellence centers. These excellence centers help push research in a particular direction, and there are a number of excellence centers set up by the European Commission. The Commission has identified future investment opportunities for AI in several ways. So they've assessed current research and trends. They also published a recent white paper on AI and AI development, and they've been analyzing input from targeted consultation from the AI community, in particular, the AI Data and Robotics PPP. Looking forward, the Commission will set up an AI lighthouse for Europe. This will build on existing AI excellence centers to build an alliance of European research organizations that will share a common roadmap to support research. They will also fund additional networks of AI excellence centers and advance the state-of-the-art in various areas of AI research under Horizon Europe. Lastly, they will develop and implement the research, innovation, and deployment strategy for Europe with a focus on the responsible development and use of artificial intelligence. Lastly, the member states are encouraged to set up regional and national research excellence centers around AI. They are also encouraged to strengthen investments in AI research at national level, for example, through the RRF. In addition to the funds that have been mobilized, the European Commission will also provide a number of services itself. Firstly, it will provide tools through an AI on-demand platform, but it will also provide an environment for developers to test and experiment with AI technologies, as well as for SMEs and public administrators to take up AI. The AI testing and experimentation facilities are special testing facilities that allow developers to test their AI prototypes on already existing infrastructure before actually bringing that product to market. In a similar way, the digital innovation hubs also help companies bridge the gap to AI, but here they do it by helping companies explore how they can be more productive and generate better products with the help of AI. These hubs provide companies with the possibility to test AI technologies before investing in the technology. And the EU, as well as the member states, are investing heavily in these digital innovation hubs to create around 200 of them spread out across Europe. Lastly, the European Commission needs to help businesses grow and scale. They do this in a number of ways, one of which being the AI and Blockchain Investment Scheme. This gives access to equity finance for innovative and risky AI and blockchain startups and SMEs. It also provides resources to venture capitalist funds and co-investments to national promotional banks. In addition to this, the European Innovation Council supports AI startups, and they provided over 1 billion euros in grants for equity startups and SMEs with a focus on deep tech in 2021. The European Institute for Innovation and Technology currently supports around 120 early-stage and mid-stage startups within AI, and they have already invested over 3 million euros into these companies. Looking forward, the European Commission, in combination with member states, will support and fund the AI blockchain investment pilot and corresponding support programs. They will fully implement the EIC under Horizon Europe, and they will mobilize AI startups through Startup Europe and the Innovation Radar. Member states are then also encouraged to support AI startups and scale-ups in assessing finance for their growth, as well as to support SMEs in their digital transformation and adopting AI technologies. They are also encouraged to use the RRF funding to set up investments in early-stage startups. In order to build a well-functioning society, it is not enough to simply enhance the scientific front of AI. We also need to put in place legislative actions to safeguard ourselves against unintended consequences that these technologies could potentially bring. We also need to raise the level of understanding within society as a whole of these new technologies. And in the coordinated plan, the European Commission identified the lack of skill of how AI systems work as a key challenge for the adoption of AI in Europe. During the 2020 survey of European enterprises, it was also identified that one of the key challenges that companies face while trying to hire people for AI technology roles is a lack of skill when it comes to particularly these new technologies. Therefore, it is a task of the European Union to address this concern and to raise the level of understanding for artificial intelligence in the general population. Since the coordinated plan was put in place in 2018, all member states have adopted national AI strategies and integrated them in the skill dimension as suggested in the coordinated plan. The European Commission is going to follow this up by supporting traineeships in digital areas to raise the level of understanding amongst the general population for these new technologies. They're going to develop ethical guidelines on AI and data usage in teaching, and they're going to promote gender equality through Horizon Europe. Now, specifically, the actions they're planning to take for the gender equality point is to integrate a gender dimension into R&I and make that a requirement across the whole program. Moreover, they're going to require that public bodies, research organizations, and higher education establishments will have to comply to a gender equality plan and submit a gender equality plan for all Horizon Europe funded projects. In addition, the European Commission will propose legislative action on a horizontal framework for artificial intelligence, focusing on issues of safety and the respect of fundamental rights specific to artificial intelligence. They will propose EU measures adapting the liability framework to the challenges of new technologies, which per definition includes artificial intelligence. They will support international, multilateral, and bilateral discussions on trustworthy AI, and they will foster the setting of global AI standards. Lastly, they will support dialogues and joint initiatives on artificial intelligence. They are encouraging member states to continue their international outreach efforts on artificial intelligence, to discuss best practices for the assessment, testing, and regulation of AI applications with global players, to facilitate implementation of the EU legal framework for AI, to analyze the flexibility of using testing and experimentation facilities, as well as digital innovation hubs, and the AI on-demand platform to assist national bodies in assessment and certification of AI technologies. In the final part of the review, the European Commission is focused on building strategic leaderships within key areas for artificial intelligence. These are areas that have been identified by the European Commission as areas where AI can bring substantial value, and the 7 areas that have been listed include the environment, health, robotics, public sector, AI and law enforcement, mobility, as well as sustainable agriculture. These areas are all big enough to be deserving of their own video, and I won't cover them all in this talk, but keep your eyes open because it's quite likely that I would post another video on a follow-up, perhaps the environmental aspects, because I think that is one of the domains where artificial intelligence can really bring a lot of value and where we're desperately needing enhancements that can be brought by artificial intelligence as well. So we will end it here for today. I hope you enjoyed this overview of the European Commission's review of their coordinated plan. I hope to see you in the next one, and until then, I wish you all the best.